I only learned after my death that my taciturn husband guarded my grave for 30 years. He personally carved my tombstone, planted it full of white chrysanthemums, and finally, on the anniversary of my death, dressed neatly and lay down beside me. Reborn. I woke up on the second day of my marriage, and he was standing by the bed holding a bowl of steaming egg custard, his brow furrowed so tightly that he could pinch a fly to death. Brenda in the courtyard shouted at the top of her lungs. Hazel is really precious, still sleeping in after getting married. In my past life, I was mortified, but in this life, I shrank directly into the man's arms. Arthur's tall frame stiffened, his ears turning red, and he turned to the outside of the door, his voice as cold as ice. I'm happy to spoil my wife, is she eating your rice? Later, he stuffed all his wages and receipts into my hands, put the secretly hidden white rabbit candies in my mouth, and spoiled me into the most envied wife in the whole courtyard. But I discovered that he invariably sent money to a strange address every month, and that there was a locked tin box hidden under the bed. It wasn't until I pried open that box that I realized his kindness to me was not just because of love. I woke up, not coughing blood in that leaky tenement building, nor as a wisp of lonely soul, wandering in the cold cemetery. I was lying on a heated clay bed covered with a bright red wedding quilt, warm and cozy, covered with a thick military coat, a clean scent of tobacco mixed with soap bean fragrance, constantly thon ing into my nose. This smell, I was so familiar with it that my heart trembled. It was Arthur's smell. I suddenly sat up and looked around. Mud walls, wooden window frames, and a crooked red double happiness character pasted on the window. This is the 1970s, the Red Star family compound, Arthur and my new house. I really came back. Back to the second day of my marriage with him. In my previous life, it was on this morning that I listened to the instigation of Brenda next door, and felt that Arthur was fierce, dull, and inconsiderate. I insisted on sleeping in separate rooms from him, thus starting the tragedy of our lives. Awake. A low, slightly hoarse male voice sounded at the door. I looked up and saw Arthur standing there holding a chipped sea bowl. He was very tall, wearing a faded old military uniform, with broad shoulders but a narrow waist, and long legs that stretched his pants straight. His face was expressionless, his brow sharp, and his eyes as black as a deep pool, just staring straight at me. In my previous life, I was most afraid of him like this, thinking that he would start hitting someone in the next second. But now I just want to cry. 30 years. How did he live alone for the 30 years after my death? Get up, eat. He put the bowl on the table, his voice stiff. The bowl contained egg custard, golden yellow, with a few drops of sesame oil floating on top, the fragrance constantly emanating. In this era, eggs are precious things. His monthly allowance is only enough to buy it a few times. My eyes heated up, I sniffed, and lifted the quilt to get out of bed. As soon as my feet touched the ground, my calf cramped, and I lunged forward. Damn, I'm going to fall flat on my face. A large hand stretched out like lightning, grabbed my waist, and with a little force, brought me into a hot embrace. His chest was as hard as a rock, his heartbeat thump, 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 drumming against my ears like a drum through the thin clothing. My face brushed red. Careless. He scolded, but his hands did not let go, steadily supporting me to sit on the edge of the bed. His palms were large, rough, with a thin layer of calluses, and holding my arm, burning hot. I lowered my head, not daring to look at him, but my heart was jumping around like a rabbit. Fussy. He dropped 2 words, turned to get my shoes. I looked at his tall back, my heart bubbling with sweetness. Yes, I am just fussy. In my previous life, no one loved me, so I could only carry it myself. In this life, with you as my support, why shouldn't I be fussy? In the courtyard, Brenda's loud voice sounded again. Oh my, it's already past noon. And Arthur's new wife hasn't gotten up yet? Really a young lady from the city, so precious. The voice was Janson Kerbois, with undisguised jealousy. In my previous life, I was so ashamed that I couldn't raise my head when I heard these words. And I felt that I had embarrassed Arthur, so without saying anything, I rushed out to argue with her. And the result? I couldn't win against that shrew, and Arthur misunderstood me, thinking that I disliked his family for being poor, and was deliberately causing trouble. I won't be fooled this time. I slowly put on my shoes, picked up the bowl of egg custard that was still a little hot, and ate it spoonful by spoonful. So fragrant. Arthur stood on the side watching me, his brow still furrowed, but his eyes didn't seem as fierce. Hazel, you come out for me. What kind of ability is it to hide in the house like a turtle? Brenda cursed more and more harshly outside. I finished the last bite of egg custard, licked my lips and looked up at Arthur. I'm full. He mmed, and reached out to take the empty bowl. I'll go wash the dishes. Wait. I grabbed the corner of his clothes. His body stiffened noticeably. I raised my small face and looked at him with bright eyes. Arthur, someone outside is scolding me. The voice was soft and noa, with a bit of grievance. Arthur's Adam's apple rolled up and down, his dark eyes staring at me for a few seconds. He said nothing, turned and went out the door. I perked up my ears and listened to the movement outside. Brenda. It was Arthur's voice, so cold that it was dropping ice. What did you say just now? Brenda's voice choked, and then rose by 8 degrees. What did I say? Arthur, I didn't say you. I'm talking about your precious wife. The sun is already on her butt and she still hasn't gotten up. Our courtyard doesn't have such a lazy wife. She was convinced that Arthur, like me, thought this was a shameful thing. In my previous life, Arthur really thought so. After he came back, he said to me with a sullen face, "Get up earlier in the future, don't let people gossip." Because of this sentence, I felt wronged for several days. But this time, I heard Arthur chuckle. That laughter was short, and without temperature. My wife, I spoil her, is she eating your rice? The courtyard was instantly silent. I covered my mouth, almost laughing out loud. Brenda was probably choked, and after a long time she found her voice, dryly saying, I'm not doing it for your own good. Marrying a wife back is for living life, not for worshipping her like an ancestor. I'm happy to worship her. Arthur's voice was not loud, but every word was like a nail, hammered into the ground. Her hands are tender, she can't touch cold water. Her body is weak, she needs to sleep more. If you have nothing to do, take your husband's military coat from last year apart and wash it. The collar is almost bal jangla. You. Brenda gasped in anger. These words were too venomous. Whose family isn't struggling in this era, but they all have to keep up appearances. Arthur's words, in front of the whole courtyard. Jail of Brenda's family's short story. Also, Arthur paused, his voice even colder. Stay away from my house in the future. If I hear you gossiping behind my back again, I'll go find your Roger, and ask him if that deputy platoon leader position is sitting too unluck. As soon as these words came out, there wasn't even a breathing sound in the courtyard. Brenda's man Roger ran around and gave so many gifts for that deputy platoon leader, who doesn't know. Arthur is the battalion commander, and a higher rank crushes people to death. If he wanted to give Roger a hard time, it was just a matter of a word. Brenda was completely deflated, and didn't dare to say a word for a long time. I heard a clang sound. It was the sound of her house door closing. The world was quiet. I leaned on the door frame, watching Arthur walk in. My heart filled with honey. This man is still the same as in his previous life, so verbally clumsy, he doesn't know how to say nice things. But he would protect me in the most direct, clumsy way. He walked in front of me, his tall figure completely enveloping me. If she causes trouble again, you just hide in the room, I'll handle it. He looked into my eyes, speaking with utmost sincerity. I nodded vigorously, tears welling up in my eyes. Understood. Seeing that I was about to cry, he was a little flustered, raising his hand, wanting to touch my face, but then retracted it. Finally, he just said stiffly, I'll go do the dishes. Then he ran to the kitchen as if escaping for his life, carrying the dishes. I looked at his back, secretly smiling. This man is just so endearingly cute. In the afternoon, Arthur went to the military unit. I cleaned the house inside and out. Actually, there wasn't much to clean. The family was dirt poor. Besides the bed, table, and 2 benches issued by the military unit, there was nothing else. Just as I was thinking about what to have for dinner, Arthur came back. He was carrying a net bag, which contained half a block of tofu, a small bundle of green vegetables, and a small strip of pork belly. My eyes lit up. In this era, meat was a rare commodity, and you needed meat coupons to buy it. Where did you get the meat coupons? I asked him. Traded with someone. He put the things in the kitchen, speaking concisely. I knew he must have used his cigarette coupons or cloth coupons to trade with his comrades. This man, he couldn't bear to eat or wear good things himself, but wanted to bring all the good things to me. For dinner I made a cabbage and tofu stew, and sliced the pork belly thinly, stir-frying a twice-cooked pork dish. The aroma wafted out, and half the compound smelled it. During the meal, Arthur didn't say a word, just burying his head in his rice. I put a piece of meat in his bowl, and he froze for a moment, looking up at me. "You eat too. You eat, your training is tiring." I smiled at him. His face seemed a little red, and he silently lowered his head and ate the piece of meat. After dinner, he went to wash the dishes as usual. I sat on the Kong, watching his back as he rolled up his sleeves and busied himself in the kitchen, feeling that this life was truly good. By the time he finished washing the dishes and came back, it was already dark. The room was lit by a small kerosene lamp, the light dim and yellow. He took off his coat, revealing the firm muscle lines underneath. My heart skipped a beat, a little nervous. Tonight, we'll be sleeping together. In my previous life, I refused at all costs, had a big fight with him on our wedding night, and took the quilt to the small side room next door. Looking back now, it was so foolish. He walked over with a pleasant scent of soapberry on his body. "You go to sleep first," he said. "What about you?" "I'll read a book for a while." He took out a military theory book from an old wooden box, sat at the table, and started reading by the dim light. I knew he was afraid I would be scared, giving me time to adjust. I lay on the Kong, covered with his military coat, smelling his scent, my heart feeling both sour and soft. "Arthur, this life, I will never push you away again." In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a rustling sound. Opening my eyes, I saw Arthur quietly crawling onto the Kong. He thought I was asleep, so his movements were very light, afraid of waking me. He lay down beside me, with a distance between us wide enough for another person to lie down. I could feel the heat emanating from his body, and his deliberately slowed breathing. In the darkness, I quietly moved closer to him. Moved closer again, until my arm touched his arm. His body instantly stiffened. I pretended to be restless in my sleep, rolled over, and completely rolled into his arms. I buried my face in his firm chest, muttering softly, "Cold." Then I felt a pair of scorching hands, hesitated for a moment, and gently landed on my back, pulling me closer into his arms. His chin rested on the top of my head, his breath spraying on my hairline, hot and itchy. I curled up the corners of my mouth and fell asleep peacefully. The next day, I woke up to the rich aroma of meat buns. I opened my eyes, and there was no one beside me. On the small table beside the Kong were 2 plump, white meat buns still steaming. Next to them was a bowl of millet porridge. My heart warmed, knowing that Arthur must have gone to the cafeteria early in the morning to buy them for me. The meat buns in their military unit's cafeteria had thin skins and large fillings, fragrant enough to make your mouth water, but they were also expensive. This man, he really gave me all the good things. Just as I was eating the buns, Brenda started speaking sarcastically in the yard again. "Oh my, who's got such a fragrant smell? Eating meat buns? Life must be good, unlike our family, who eats cornbread every day." I wanted to laugh when I heard this. This Brenda is really like a dogskin plaster, feeling uncomfortable if she doesn't cause trouble for a day. I didn't bother to pay attention to her. After finishing breakfast, I cleared away the dishes and prepared to fetch water to wash my face. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Brenda blocking my doorway. Today she was wearing a half-new floral shirt, her hair combed back and slicked down, her arms crossed, looking ready to cause trouble. "Hazel, you're finally up," she said with a fake smile. "What is it?" I asked indifferently. "It's nothing big," Brenda sized me up and down with contempt in her eyes. "It's just that seeing your Arthur getting you food and doing your laundry every day, like an old nanny, I feel sorry for him. Which military wife in our compound doesn't get up early and work late, going to the fields to earn work points, serving their man and children? Only you are so precious, sleeping until the sun is high in the sky, not doing any work." She paused, deliberately raising her voice so that the surrounding neighbors could hear. "Tell me, are you worthy of our Arthur? He is a combat hero. Did he marry you to drag him down?" Several military wives had already poked their heads out, looking this way. Their eyes held curiosity, jealousy, and the schadenfreude of watching a good show. In my previous life, I was angered by her words and lost my mind, saying many hurtful things to Arthur without thinking. I said, "Who wants to marry him? If my parents hadn't forced me, I wouldn't have married this country bumpkin." Those words were like a knife, deeply stabbing into Arthur's heart. From then on, although he was still good to me, his eyes always carried a trace of pain that I couldn't understand. This life, I will not make the same mistake again. I looked at Brenda and suddenly smiled. "Sister-in-law Brenda, you're so concerned about our family's affairs. If I didn't know better, I'd think you had your eye on our Arthur." Brenda's face flushed crimson. "You? What nonsense are you talking about?" In this era, relationships between men and women were a very sensitive topic. Saying that someone had their eye on someone else's man was no different from calling them a slut. The eyes of the military wives watching the excitement around them also changed as they looked at Brenda. Am I talking nonsense? I took a step forward, getting closer to her, my voice not loud but every word clear. Then why are you staring at our house all day long? Arthur buys me a bun and you're jealous. Arthur does my laundry and you're envious. You even have to control me sleeping in my own house. Sister-in-law Brenda, aren't you being a little too nosy? I'm just kindly reminding you, Brenda shouted, her voice fierce but weak. Reminding me? I sneered. Reminding me not to be too lazy, or reminding me not to be too happy, hurting your eyes? I pointed to the dress I was wearing. This dress is made from fabric that Arthur asked someone to buy back from Shanghai, and made by hand for me. Pretty, right? Brenda's eyes were about to spew fire. I pointed to the leather shoes on my feet again. These shoes Arthur bought them too. He said my feet are delicate and I can't wear straw sandals. And this hair of mine. I lifted a strand of long hair. Arthur said city girls all use snow cream, so he bought some for me too, saying it makes the hair fragrant and smooth. With each sentence I spoke, Brenda's expression worsened. By the end, her face was like a palette, multicolored. The other military wives around us all wore expressions of envy, jealousy, and hate. These days, which man didn't value money more than his own life? A man like Arthur, willing to spend money on his wife, was hard to find even with a lantern. Sister-in-law Brenda, I looked at her, smiling innocently. Tell me, Arthur is so good to me, if I didn't stay home and enjoy it, and instead ran around all day with you, gossiping and talking nonsense, wouldn't I be letting him down too much? You. Brenda was so speechless she couldn't utter a word, pointing at me, trembling for a long time. I patted her shoulder, saying earnestly, with that free time, you should care more about your brother Roger. I saw yesterday he secretly took the family's grain coupons to exchange for cigarettes again. Brenda's face instantly turned pale. She had been tightly guarding her husband's dirty secret, but I unexpectedly exposed it. She didn't even bother to argue with me, cursing and swearing as she rushed back home. And just like that, I easily resolved the commotion. Feeling refreshed, I carried my bucket to the well to draw water. Several military wives who had been watching the excitement earlier glanced away with a bit of shame as they saw me approaching. One of them, Clara, who was a bit bolder, came over to strike up a conversation. Hazel, don't take Brenda to heart. She's just got a gossipy mouth. I smiled at her. I know, thank you, sister-in-law Clara. In my past life, sister-in-law Clara helped me a lot. When Arthur was on duty and we ran out of rice at home, she secretly brought me a bowl of cornmeal. I always remembered this kindness. That evening, when Arthur returned, I told him about the day's events. I thought he would praise me, or at least smile. But after listening, he frowned even more deeply. Don't argue with her again. Why? I was unconvinced. She started it. That person, she's unreasonable. Arthur said gravely. If you win an argument with her, she'll hold a grudge against you. If you lose, you'll get angry yourself. It's not worth it. I was stunned. Then what do I do? Just let her bully me like that. I said I'll handle it. Arthur looked at me, his eyes especially earnest. In the future, if she says anything again, don't pay her any attention, just come back and tell me. I'll take care of the rest. I looked at him, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't describe. This man, he was always like this. Using his own way, he was shielding me. Okay. I nodded, my voice a little muffled. He thought I was unhappy and explained awkwardly. I'm not stopping you from standing up for yourself. I'm just afraid you'll suffer. I know. I looked up and smiled at him. I'll listen to you. His gaze instantly softened. That night, he came to bed very late again, still keeping a large distance from me. In the middle of the night, I pretended to be asleep and rolled into his arms again. This time he didn't stiffen. Instead, he very naturally reached out and held me tightly. I could even feel him gently kissing the top of my head. My heart immediately soared. The days passed by like this. Arthur went to the army every day, and I stayed at home, sometimes reading, sometimes doing needlework, and occasionally following sister-in-law Clara and the others to dig for wild vegetables on the back hill. After Arthur scolded her once, Brenda became much more well-behaved. Although her eyes still seemed to shoot daggers at me, at least she didn't dare to pick a fight with me in person anymore. The military wives in the compound also changed their attitudes towards me. Before it was jealousy and ostracism, now it was envy and flattery. Everyone knew that Arthur doted on his city wife to the bone. The things she ate, wore, and used, none of them were spared. On my birthday, he somehow managed to get me a cake. Although it was just the simplest sponge cake with a little cream on top, in this era, it was already considered the most extravagant thing. That night, he placed the cake on the table and lit a red candle. In the candlelight, his face looked especially gentle. "Make a wish," he said. I closed my eyes and put my hands together. My wish was simple. I hoped that this lifetime's Arthur could be safe and sound, healthy, and live to a ripe old age. I hoped that we could be as happy as we were now, forever. After blowing out the candle, he cut me the biggest piece of cake. I ate it with cream all over my mouth, and he didn't mind, reaching out his finger and gently wiping it off. His fingertips were a little rough, brushing against the corner of my mouth, tickling me. My face instantly turned red. "Arthur," I called him softly. You're so good to me." He didn't say anything, just looked at me, his dark, bright eyes seeming to be filled with starlight. After a long while he whispered a sentence. "You're my wife. If I'm not good to you, who should I be good to?" His voice was light, but very heavy, landing on my heart, blooming into flower after flower. After eating the cake, I was about to wash the dishes when he stopped me. "I'll do it." He collected the dishes and chopsticks and went to the kitchen alone. Looking at his back, a thought suddenly surged in my heart. This man has done so much for me. Wasn't there something I should do for him too? He stayed in the army all year round, wearing only a few sets of clothes back and forth. And his socks were worn out with holes, but he couldn't bear to throw them away. I wanted to make him a new set of clothes, make a few pairs of new socks. The next day, I took the money and cloth coupons that Arthur gave me, and went to the supply and marketing cooperative in the county. I chose a piece of dark blue serge, strong and durable, and also picked some white cotton cloth, planning to make him a few shirts. Leaving the supply and marketing cooperative, I passed by the post office and as if possessed, walked in. I thought of that matter. In my past life, I accidentally discovered that Arthur would remit money to an address every month. The amount wasn't small, almost half of his allowance. At the time, I thought he had someone outside. I had a big fight with him over this matter, and even tore up the remittance slip he had sent. He was trembling with anger at the time but refused to explain a word. This matter also became one of the triggers for our divorce. In this life, I didn't want to become estranged from him because of misunderstandings again. I wanted to know who that money was being sent to. I walked to the counter, pondering how to speak to the staff. Just then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a familiar figure. It was Brenda. She was holding a remittance slip, handling business at another window. I subconsciously dodged to the side, not wanting her to see me. After she finished her business and left happily, I went to the window she had just been at. "Comrade, hello." I greeted the older woman inside the window with a smile. The older woman glanced at me and said, indifferently. "It's like this." I took out 2 white rabbit candies from my pocket and quietly placed them near her hand. "That older woman just now is my neighbor. She left in a hurry, and it seems like she left something behind. I wanted to see if she did." The older woman looked at the 2 candies, and her expression softened a little. "She didn't leave anything behind." "Then, Did she handle a remittance just now? I asked, pretending to be casual. Yes. Do you remember where she sent it? Why are you asking this? Oh, it's like this. I had already prepared my excuse. Her husband asked me to ask, to see if she sent money back to her family again. This was a reasonable excuse. These days it was common for wives to secretly support their own families. The older woman was indeed convinced. She flipped through the copies and said, it was sent back to her family. The address is. She gave a place name. I was stunned. I'd heard of that address. In my past life, the address Arthur remitted money to was there. How could it be such a coincidence? A thought flashed through my mind like lightning. Could it be that the money Arthur sent was related to Brenda? Carrying this shocking discovery, I went home in a daze. My mind was in a jumble. Arthur and Brenda? Impossible. I knew what kind of person Arthur was better than anyone. He was upright, rigid, even a bit uninterested in women. For him to be involved with a woman like Brenda would be harder than sending him to heaven. But how to explain that address? In my past life, I was certain that he was seeing someone on the side because of that address. Could it be that there was something I didn't know about? I put away the cloth and cotton and sat on the Kong, lost in thought. I made dinner absent-mindedly and almost put salt instead of sugar in it. When Arthur came back, he immediately noticed that something was wrong with me. What's wrong? He put down his things, walked to my side, and reached out to feel my forehead. Not feeling well? His palm was hot, but I felt a little cold. I shook my head and avoided his hand. No. His brow furrowed. Then why are you so absent-minded? I looked at him, wanting to ask him directly. To ask him what the address was all about. To ask him why he sent money to that place every month. But the words came to my lips and then I swallowed them back. I was afraid. I was afraid that the answer I got would be something I couldn't bear. I was afraid that this life's happiness was just a fleeting illusion. Nothing, I'm just a little tired. Arthur looked at me deeply and didn't ask any further. If you're tired, go and rest, I'll make dinner. He put on an apron and went into the kitchen. I looked at his back, my heart filled with mixed feelings. During dinner, neither of us spoke. The atmosphere was a bit heavy. I took a few bites and lost my appetite. I'm full. I put down my chopsticks and went back to my room. Arthur looked at me, his lips moved, but in the end he didn't say anything. That night, I had insomnia for the first time. I lay on the Kong, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. Arthur beside me was breathing evenly, as if he was already asleep. But I knew he wasn't asleep. His body was tense. Even his breathing was a little too deliberately steady. We were lying together, but our hearts seemed to be separated by a chasm. This feeling was too uncomfortable. I didn't want this. I'd finally been reborn, not to repeat the same mistakes with him. In the darkness, I turned around to face him. Arthur. I called out softly. His body stiffened almost imperceptibly. Are you asleep? He didn't answer. I knew he was awake. Let's talk, I said. The air was silent for a few seconds. Then I heard him say softly. I took a deep breath and voiced the questions in my heart. I went to the post office today. His breathing seemed to stop for a moment. I saw Brenda remitting money that address. I think I've seen it before. I stared intently at him, not wanting to miss the slightest expression on his face. But it was too dark in the room. I couldn't see anything. I could only feel the air around me getting colder and colder. You saw it? His voice was deep and hoarse. Yeah. So he asked. So what? How should I ask? Ask what his relationship with Brenda was? Ask why he sent money to her family? I couldn't bring myself to say those words. It was too hurtful. It's nothing. I lowered my head, my voice muffled. I'm just a little curious. He was silent again. After a long time, I heard him sigh. That sigh carried a hint of weariness and helplessness that I couldn't understand. Hazel, he called me by my nickname, his voice very soft. Some things don't ask. Why? My voice was tearful. Is there anything you can't tell me? We're husband and wife. It's precisely because we're husband and wife that I don't want you to know. His voice revealed a deep sense of helplessness. That matter is in the past. You just need to know that in my life, Arthur only has you in my heart, and that's enough. He spoke so earnestly, so sincerely. But the knot in my heart grew bigger and bigger. What exactly happened? What could have happened that would make him rather be misunderstood by me than tell the truth? And it's related to Brenda? That night, neither of us spoke again. We just lay there, back to back, until dawn. The next day, Arthur went to the army early in the morning, without even eating breakfast. I knew he was avoiding me. My heart felt blocked by something both stuffy and painful. I didn't want to have a cold war with him. I had to do something. I suddenly remembered something. Under Arthur's bed, there was a locked tin box. In my previous life, I never paid attention to it. When I came back this life and was cleaning the house, I discovered that box. At the time, I asked him what was inside, and he only said that it was some old stuff from the army, not valuable. Now that I thought about it, his expression at the time seemed a little unnatural. Could the answer I was looking for be in that box? I dragged the tin box out from under the bed. The box wasn't big, army green, with a small brass lock on it. The lock was already rusted, looking quite old. I didn't have a key. I used a wire to poke at the lock for a long time, but couldn't open it. It seemed that I had to use the dumbest method. I found a kitchen knife and pried hard at the lock. With a clang, the lock opened. My heart jumped to my throat. I opened the box and what was inside stunned me. There were no letters or photos, as I had imagined. Only a thick stack of remittance slips, several military medals, and an old diary. I picked up the remittance slip on top. The name of the payee was Walter. The address was Brenda's parents' address. The remitter was Arthur. I flipped through them one by one, and every single one was the same. Starting a month before our wedding, every month without fail. My hand started to tremble. Who was Walter? Why was Arthur sending him so much money? I picked up the military medals. 3rd class merit, 2nd class merit, 1st class merit. Each one represented the glory he had earned on the battlefield with his life. He had never mentioned any of this to me. Finally, I picked up the diary. The cover of the notebook was badly worn, and the pages were yellowed. I opened the first page. The words on it were vigorous and forceful, Arthur's handwriting. 196x X month, X day sunny. Today I saw her photo. Very thin, very small. But her eyes are very bright, like the stars in the sky. The instructor said her name is Hazel, the daughter of my savior. My breath stopped immediately. Savior? My dad? I continued reading. The instructor said that the old platoon leader's only last wish was that I would take good care of her. I said okay. I sent her the first sum of money. I thought, she's just a little girl. She should eat more good food and fatten herself up. Later, I sent money many more times. Every time I sent money, I wondered, would she smile when she received it? She must be very pretty when she smiles. As I looked at these words, tears fell drip, drip. So he had been taking care of me since so long ago. And I knew nothing. I always thought our marriage was just an arrangement by our parents. I always thought that his kindness to me was just out of responsibility. I flipped to the back. We're getting married. I'm very happy and also very nervous. I'm afraid that this rough guy, am not good enough for her. She's so fair, so clean, like someone from a painting. On our wedding day, she was very scared of me. I know. I look fierce and don't like to talk. At night, I didn't dare to get on the bed, afraid of scaring her. I just sat by the table all night. She seems to have misunderstood me. She ignores me and even argues with Brenda. My heart is sad, but I won't explain. I can only be nicer to her, and nicer. I think one day she'll understand. She smiled at me today, and even put some meat in my bowl. I'm very happy. That piece of meat was sweeter than anything I've ever eaten. She said I smell good. I secretly washed that army coat again and put it in the sun for a long time. The diary stopped here. The last page was blank. I closed the diary, hugged it in my arms, and cried uncontrollably. What an idiot I am. What exactly did I do in my previous life? I misunderstood him, hurt him, and pushed him far away. His heart was so bitter, but he didn't say a word. He just awkwardly, in his own way, loved me my whole life. And who was Walter? Why was Arthur sending him money? I suddenly remembered something. Brenda seemed to have an older brother named Walter. I wiped away my tears, put everything back in the box, and pushed it back under the bed. Then, I went to Clara's house. Sister-in-law Clara, I want to ask you about something. What is it? Tell me. Clara was making soles for shoes, and was very enthusiastic. Brenda. Does she have an older brother? Yes, she does. Clara said without looking up. His name is Walter. He used to be in the army, in the same company as Arthur. My heart sank suddenly. Then, where is he now? Oh, don't mention it. Clara sighed. Bad luck, he died a few years ago during a mission. Died? Yes. Clara lowered her voice and said mysteriously. I heard he died saving someone. The one who was saved seems to have been our Arthur. Boom. It felt like something exploded in my head. All the clues at this moment connected. Walter sacrificed himself to save Arthur. Arthur felt indebted to the Wong family, so he sent money to the Wong family every month to take care of their lives. And Brenda, as Walter's sister, took Arthur's money, but was also jealous of me and put obstacles in my way at every turn. Everything made sense. This secret, Arthur kept hidden so painfully. He didn't want me to know he carried a life on his conscience. He didn't want me to know his kindness to me was mixed with guilt towards another person. What he wanted to give me was complete, pure love. This fool. The biggest fool in the world. From the moment I left Clara's house, the tears didn't stop. My heart ached, felt sore, and was filled to the brim. Arthur, my Arthur. In this life, I'll never let you carry so much alone again. I went home and started preparing dinner. I wanted to make him something delicious. I took out the piece of pork belly he was reluctant to eat, chopped it into filling, and mixed the dough, preparing to make dumplings for him. Pork and scallion filling his favorite. Arthur came back when it was almost dark. He looked very tired, with a trace of melancholy that wouldn't dissipate between his brows. He was stunned when he saw me, his eyes a little evasive. I'm back. Yeah, you're back. I smiled at him, my eyes crinkling. Go wash your hands, dinner's almost ready. He looked at my smiling face a little lost. You're not angry anymore. Why would I be angry? I walked over and naturally helped him take off his coat. I'm your wife. If I don't trust you, who do I trust? His body stiffened, and he suddenly raised his head, his dark, bright eyes surging with emotions I couldn't understand. Hazel. Okay, go wash your hands. I pushed him a little. The dumplings are almost cooked. He said, oh, and went to the kitchen a little foolishly. He still didn't say much during dinner, just kept eating dumplings. I gave him one, he ate one. Soon his bowl was empty. Want more? I asked. He nodded. I filled his bowl again. Looking at him wolfing down the food, my nose felt a little sore. This man, with so many things hidden in his heart, must be in a lot of pain. After dinner, he insisted on washing the dishes. I didn't argue with him. When he finished washing the dishes, I poured him a cup of hot water. Arthur, let's talk. I sat on the edge of the Kong, patting the spot beside me. He walked over and sat down beside me. His body was still a little stiff. I want to know about Walter. I got straight to the point. His body tensed up suddenly. How do you know? Don't worry about how I know. I looked into his eyes and said, word by word. I just want to hear you tell me yourself. He was silent. In the room, only the crackling sound of the kerosene lamp burning remained. After a very long time, he finally spoke. His voice was terribly hoarse. He was my brother. We enlisted together, went to the same company, slept in bunk beds. That mission, the one who should have died, was me. He spoke slowly with difficulty. I could feel that every memory was a kind of slow torture for him. He pushed me away. He was shot 3 times. Before he died, he asked me to take care of his parents, to take care of his sister. I promised. After he finished speaking, he buried his head in his hands. I saw his broad shoulders trembling slightly. My heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand. It hurt so much I could barely breathe. I reached out and hugged him from behind. I pressed my face against his broad back, tears flowing silently. It's not your fault. I choked out. Arthur, it's not your fault. I know you're hurting, I know you blame yourself. But it's not your fault. You've already done so well. You kept your promise, took care of his family, you're a real man. His body trembled even more violently. I felt hot liquid dripping onto the back of my hand. He was crying. This man who wouldn't shed a tear even if he was bleeding, was crying in front of me. I hugged him tighter. Arthur, it's all in the past. From now on I'll be here with you. No matter what happens, I'll be here with you. He didn't turn around, didn't say anything. We just hugged each other quietly like that. After a long time, he finally said hoarsely, I'm sorry. Why are you saying sorry? I shouldn't have kept it from you. I forgive you. I sniffled and said, but you have to promise me one thing. What thing? From now on, no matter what happens, you can't hide anything from me anymore. Okay. He nodded heavily. At that moment, I felt that the wall between us had completely disappeared. After talking it out, the atmosphere between us returned to its previous sweetness, even more intimate than before. He no longer deliberately kept his distance from me. When we went to sleep at night, he would take the initiative to hold me in his arms. His embrace was warm and gave me a sense of security. I liked to rest my head on his arm, listening to the steady beat of his heart as I fell asleep. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and find him staring at me silently in the dark. His eyes were so gentle they could drip water. What are you looking at? I would ask groggily. Looking at my wife. He would lower his head and kiss my forehead. I can't get enough of looking at you. My face would burn up with a boom, and I would quickly bury my head in his arms, pretending to be asleep. He would chuckle softly, his deep laughter vibrating and making my chest tingle. Brenda, on the other hand, had quieted down, probably because Arthur had talked to her again. Now she avoids me whenever she sees me, as if I were some kind of monster. Clara, however, has become closer to me. She's very warm-hearted and often invites me over to do needlework and chat about everyday life, seeing that I'm bored at home alone. From her, I learned a lot of gossip about the compound, like which wife quarreled with her mother-in-law, or which husband was caught secretly stashing away money. Life was simple and warm. I started learning to be a real military wife. I used that khaki cloth to make Arthur a new uniform. And with the white cotton, I made him 2 shirts. He has a great figure, a natural hanger. Wearing the new clothes I made him, he looked even more heroic and upright. He didn't say anything, but I could tell he was very happy. He only wore that new uniform on weekends or for important occasions. He cherished it like a treasure. I also knitted him a sweater and made him new socks. I took care of him from head to toe. The military wives in the compound all envied me, saying Arthur was lucky to have married such a skillful wife. Whenever that happened, Arthur would grin foolishly, bursting with pride. In the blink of an eye, winter arrived. The weather got colder, and the army began to organize winter training. Arthur got busy and often didn't come back for days. Alone at home, all I did was miss him and worry about him. Winter training is tough, especially in the northern winter, where it's freezing cold. I was afraid he would get cold, afraid he would go hungry, afraid he would get hurt. Every time he came back, I would pull him close and check him all over to make sure he was still in one piece before I could relax. He always laughed at me for worrying too much. Don't worry, your man is very capable. He would pick me up, spin me around, and then give me a solid kiss. That winter, there was a heavy snow. The snowflakes fell heavily all day and all night, turning the whole world white. In the compound, children were having snowball fights, building snowmen, their laughter carrying far. I stood by the window, watching the snow scene outside, but I felt a little uneasy. Arthur had been gone for 3 days, and there was no news. This winter training was in the deep mountains and forests, and conditions were very harsh. I felt anxious, with a nagging feeling that something bad was going to happen. By evening the snow stopped. But the wind got stronger, whistling against the window, sounding like ghosts crying. I lay alone on the cold bed, unable to fall asleep. Just as I was drifting off, I heard urgent knocking on the door. Who is it? I asked warily. Sister-in-law. It's me, Kevin. It was a guard working under Arthur. My heart skipped a beat, and a premonition of disaster washed over me. I quickly got up, put on my clothes, and went to open the door. As soon as I opened the door, a gust of cold wind and snowflakes poured in. Kevin stood at the door, his face red with cold, his body covered with snow. Sister-in-law. When he saw me, his eyes turned red. You need to go and see. Battalion commander. He had an accident. My mind went blank, a loud buzz ringing in my ears. What did he say? Arthur had an accident. What happened to him? My voice trembled uncontrollably. To save a new recruit, the battalion commander was hit in the leg by a rolling stone. He's at the regimental hospital now, and the doctor says he might need an amputation. Kevin said, crying. Amputation? Those two words, like a heavy hammer, struck my heart hard. My vision went black, and I almost fainted. No. Impossible. Arthur is so strong. How could something happen to him? Take me. I grabbed Kevin's arm, my nails almost digging into his flesh. Take me to see him. Sister-in-law, don't worry, the car is outside. I didn't care about anything else, just threw on a cotton coat and ran out with Kevin. The family compound was some distance from the regiment headquarters, and the snow on the road was thick, so the car drove slowly. My heart felt like it was being roasted over a fire, so anxious I felt like it would explode. In my mind, those two words kept repeating. Amputation. If Arthur lost his leg, what would he do? He's such a proud man. How could he accept himself as a cripple? I dared not think about it. Tears like broken beads kept falling. Arriving at the hospital, I rushed inside, almost tripping over myself. A strong smell of disinfectant assaulted my nose. I found Arthur's ward. Pushing open the door, I saw him lying in bed, his face pale, his lips cracked. His right leg was wrapped in thick bandages, with blood seeping through. My heart shattered at once. Arthur! I threw myself beside his bed and took his hand. His hand was cold, without any warmth. Hearing my voice, he slowly opened his eyes. Seeing me, he was first stunned, and then his eyes darkened. Why are you here? His voice was weak as smoke. Why can't I be here? I said, crying. You've had such a big accident, why didn't you tell me? He avoided my eyes, turning his head to the side. What's the point of telling you? Just to make you worry. Arthur. I was anxious. I'm your wife. If something happens to you, of course I want to be with you. Wife. He suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. I'm about to become a cripple. How can I still be your man? His words, like knives, stabbed into my heart. Don't talk nonsense. I grabbed his shoulders and shook him hard. Nothing will happen to you. The doctor said it's just possible. Not necessarily an amputation. Possible. He looked at me, his eyes filled with emptiness. Hazel, don't deceive yourself. I know my leg. It's already numb. My tears flowed even harder. So what if it's numb? Even if you really have to have an amputation, you're still my man. The only man in my life, Hazel. I lay on him, sobbing uncontrollably. I don't want you to be some war hero. I just want you to live well. Arthur, do you hear me? I just want you to live. He froze. After a long time, he reached out and gently stroked my hair. Silly girl. His voice contained a hint of choking. What are you crying for? I'm not dead yet. That night, I stayed by his bedside, not wanting to leave for even a second. I held his hand and kept talking to him. I told him how fierce he was when we first met. I told him how handsome he was when he stood up for me for the first time. I told him how cute he was when he secretly bought me white rabbit candies. As I talked, I smiled. Smiling, I cried again. He listened quietly the whole time, occasionally using his rough fingers to wipe away my tears. As dawn approached, I fell asleep by the bed. In my dream, I felt someone kiss my cheek. Very light, very gentle. I opened my eyes and saw Arthur looking down at me. His eyes no longer held the previous deathly stillness, but a hint of light. Hazel, he touched my face and said in a hoarse voice, when I get better, we'll go home. Yeah. I nodded hard, tears falling again. Go home. The next day, the doctor came to check on him. After examining Arthur's leg, the expression on the doctor's face was very grave. He called me and Arthur's company commander to the office. The situation is not optimistic, the doctor said. The nerves and blood vessels in his right leg have suffered severe compressive damage, and there are already signs of necrosis. To save his life, I recommend amputation as soon as possible." My heart sank to the bottom again. "Doctor," I asked trembling, "is there really no other way?" "Unless a miracle happens," the doctor sighed. Leaving the office, I felt like I was floating. The company commander patted my shoulder and comforted me. "Little Sue, don't be too sad. Arthur is a hero of our unit. The organization won't ignore him. Even if he can't stay in the army in the future, they will arrange a good job for him." I forced a smile and couldn't say anything. Back in the ward, Arthur was waiting for me. Seeing my expression, he understood everything. "He told you?" I nodded. He was silent. The atmosphere in the ward was suffocating. "Arthur," I walked up to him, crouched down and looked up at him. "Let's not have the surgery, okay?" He was stunned. "What did you say?" "Let's not have the surgery." I repeated each word clearly. "I don't believe in any damn doctors. I believe in you. Your leg will be fine." "Hazel, don't be ridiculous." He frowned. "This is playing with your life." "I'm not being ridiculous." I stood up, looking at him with firm eyes. "I'm going to take a gamble. I'm betting that heaven won't bear to turn such a good person like you into a cripple." In my previous life, Arthur had his leg amputated because of this accident. From then on, he became depressed, drank all day, and died a few years later. In this life, I must not let the tragedy repeat itself. I remember hearing people say in my previous life that, at that time, an old military doctor from Beijing happened to be here for an exchange. He had seen Arthur's situation and said that he had a way to save his leg, but the risk was very high, and it required a very rare herb. At the time, everyone thought it was a fantasy, and no one believed him. In the end, the old military doctor shook his head and left, and Arthur missed the only opportunity. In this life, I must find that old military doctor, find that herb. "Arthur, believe me once." I held his hand and pleaded. "Just once." He looked at me with a complex expression. He saw the stubbornness and madness in my eyes. After a long time, he nodded. "Okay," he said. "I believe you." I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling almost exhausted. In the following days, I took care of Arthur while inquiring about the whereabouts of the old military doctor. Heaven does not disappoint those who have a heart. I finally found him at a guest house in the next county. I told the old military doctor about Arthur's situation, and he immediately became interested. He followed me to the health center and gave Arthur a detailed examination. "It's really tricky." The old military doctor stroked his beard and pondered. "However, it's not entirely hopeless." My heart immediately jumped up. "What method?" "I have an acupuncture therapy that can stimulate the regeneration of the nerves in his leg. But it also needs to be combined with an herb called rejuvenation grass, taken internally and applied externally, to have a chance." "Rejuvenation grass?" "Yes." The old military doctor nodded. "This herb is very rare and only grows on cliffs in extremely cold places." I took out the paper and pen I had prepared and carefully drew the shape and characteristics of the herb. "Thank you, doctor." I bowed deeply to him. After sending the old military doctor away, I took the drawing and found Arthur's company commander. I told him the situation, and the company commander immediately frowned. "Little Sue, isn't this nonsense? I've never even heard of that so-called rejuvenation grass. What if you can't find it? Wouldn't it delay Arthur's treatment?" "Company commander, I have to try." My attitude was firm. "I believe in that old military doctor, and I hope you can believe me once." The company commander looked at me and hesitated. I knew he was worried. After all, Arthur was his soldier. If something happened, he would be responsible. At this moment, Arthur spoke from the bed. "Company commander," his voice was weak but firm. "I believe my wife. Let's do as she says. If anything happens, I will take full responsibility." The company commander looked at us both, and finally, sighed a long sigh. All right. He waved his hand. "You two are both stubborn. I'll arrange for people to take the drawing and search the nearby mountains immediately." "Thank you, company commander." I was so excited that I almost cried. In the following days, I stayed by Arthur's side every day, massaging him, talking to him and telling him stories. The old military doctor also came every day to give him acupuncture. And the team searching for rejuvenation grass had also set off. We were waiting. Waiting for a miracle. The days of waiting were long and agonizing. Every day, looking at Arthur's pale face and his leg that had no sensation, my heart felt like it was being cut with a knife. He was very strong and never cried out in pain in front of me. But I knew he was uncomfortable. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I would be awakened by his suppressed groans. He would be covered in cold sweat from the pain, but he would grit his teeth and not make a sound. I could only hold him and say to him over and over again, "It will be okay, Arthur, everything will be okay." He would turn around and comfort me. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." A turning point came half a month later. That day, after the old military doctor finished giving Arthur acupuncture, he suddenly said, "Ha! Do you feel anything?" he asked Arthur. Arthur froze. Then a look of disbelief spread across his face. "Yes, a little," he said, trembling. "Just now, when you inserted the needle, I think I felt a little numbness." My tears welled up instantly. He felt something. His legs, they felt something. The old military doctor was so excited his beard was bristling. "There's hope. There's hope." The news was like a light, illuminating our dim world. Everyone was overjoyed. The regiment sent even more people to the deep mountains to search for the rebirth grass. And I took even better care of Arthur. A few more days passed, and the sensation in Arthur's legs became more and more obvious. From numbness at first, to later soreness, swelling, and even pain. Pain. He lay in bed, his forehead covered in cold sweat. "Pain is good," the old military doctor said. "It means your nerves are recovering." I wiped his sweat, my heart aching with tenderness. I knew it was a good thing, but I'd rather it was me who was in pain. That afternoon, Kevin ran in excitedly. "Sister-in-law, battalion commander. We found it. We found it." In his hand, he held several seemingly unremarkable green grasses. "Rebirth grass. We found it." Looking at those grasses, I was too excited to speak. "We found it. We finally found it." The old military doctor held the herbs as if they were a priceless treasure. He immediately went to brew the medicine, part for internal consumption, part crushed and applied externally to Arthur. A miracle really happened. After taking the medicine, Arthur's legs got better day by day. Half a month later, he could already walk with crutches. A month later, he threw away the crutches. Although he still limped a little when walking, the doctor said that as long as he persisted with rehabilitation, he would soon be like a normal person. Everyone in the clinic was stunned. They all said it was a miracle in medical history. Only I knew it wasn't a miracle. It was my love from 2 lifetimes, exchanged with heaven. The day Arthur was discharged from the hospital, the weather was particularly good. The sun was warm and comforting, shining on people. The regiment sent a car to pick us up. Back at the family compound, the neighbors in the courtyard came out to welcome us. Seeing Arthur able to walk, everyone's faces showed surprise. Brenda was also in the crowd. She looked at Arthur, her mouth so wide open you could fit an egg in it. Her face showed undisguised jealousy and disappointment. I sneered inwardly. "Brenda, I've disappointed you. My man is doing well, and we will be fine for the rest of our lives." Back home, looking at the familiar house, I felt like I'd been away for ages. Arthur stood in the middle of the room, taking a deep breath. "It's good to be home," he said. Then he turned around and looked at me. His eyes were deep and bright. Suddenly he knelt on one knee. From his pocket, he took out a small object wrapped in red cloth. "What is this?" I was stunned. He opened the red cloth. Inside was a simple ring made of a bullet casing. Although rough, it shone with a warm light in the sun. "Hazel," he looked up at me, his eyes as reverent as if looking at his faith. "Before, when we got married, it was very rushed. I never gave you a wedding nor a ring. This, I secretly made it when I was in the hospital. It's not beautiful, but it's a token of my heart. Comrade Hazel," his voice trembled with a hint of nervousness, "are you willing to marry me again?" I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. I covered my mouth and nodded vigorously. I do, Arthur." In this life, the next life, the next life after that, I'm willing. He smiled. Smiling like a child. He carefully put the ring on my ring finger. Then he stood up and held me tightly, tightly, in his arms, as if he wanted to rub me into his bones. Hazel, he whispered in my ear over and over again. I love you. I love you too, Arthur. I hugged him, responding. Forever I love you. Arthur's leg recovered very well. 3 months later, he could walk normally, but strenuous exercise was still a bit of a problem. Considering his situation, the military transferred him to a relatively relaxed logistics position. Although he could no longer fight on the front lines as before, he retained his military status and stayed in the military he loved. For him, this was already the best result. Our lives returned to the usual peace and warmth. He went to work every day, and I guarded our home. We would shop for groceries together, cook together, and stroll hand in hand around the courtyard after dinner. He still didn't talk much, but his eyes were always full of doting when he looked at me. He remembered my preferences, remembered that I didn't eat green onions or ginger. He would put the best dishes on the table in my bowl. He would spoil me, like an innocent little girl. The following spring, I became pregnant. When Arthur heard the news, he was so excited he spun around several times in place, then picked me up and almost lifted the roof off the house. From that day on, I became the key protected object in the family. Not allowed to do this, not allowed to touch that. He wanted to worship me every day. Throughout the entire pregnancy, he took care of me meticulously. I gave birth to a son. He looked especially like him, especially those eyes so black and bright. Arthur held the soft little guy, a tough man of steel, smiling like an idiot. He named his son Owen. He said he wanted his son to remember for the rest of his life that his mother's name was Hazel. The days flowed by in such sweet happiness. Our son grew up day by day, from a babbling baby to a mischievous little boy. Arthur also gradually rose from an ordinary logistics clerk to the head of the logistics department. We moved from that small bungalow to a spacious and bright 3-bedroom apartment. Life was getting better and better. The only thing that remained unchanged was his love for me. Over so many years, the way he looked at me was still the same as it was at the beginning, full of love and cherish. Brenda's family had moved away long ago. I heard that her husband was disciplined by the army for misconduct and transferred back to his hometown. She followed him, slinking away. I never saw her again after that. Some people, some things are destined to be just passers-by in our lives. In a blink of an eye, decades passed. Arthur and I both grew old. Our hair turned white, and our faces were covered with wrinkles. Our son also grew up and had his own family and career. But he still liked to hold my hand and take me for a walk, just like before. He would carefully remove the bones from the fish I liked to eat and put it in my bowl. He would secretly kiss my forehead while I was asleep. That day, we were sitting on the rocking chairs in the courtyard, basking in the sun. I leaned on his shoulder, dozing off. Arthur, will you still marry me in the next life? He didn't speak, he just tightened his arms around me. I waited a long time, but I didn't get his answer. I was a little unhappy and looked up at him. But I found that he had closed his eyes, with a peaceful smile on his face, already asleep. Sleeping very deeply, never to wake up again. He was gone. In my arms he left quietly and peacefully. Without pain, without struggle. I held him, not crying. I knew that he was just tired, and had gone to a very far place to wait for me. In his diary, I saw the words he wrote on the last page. Hazel, if there is a next life, let me find you. I will definitely at the first sight of you tell you, I love you. I closed the diary and smiled. Silly man. You told me a long time ago. With your whole life. Arthur, my love. Wait for me. I'll be there soon to find you.